Okay guys, welcome back to part 3 of this GS850 build. So a little bit of final preparation on the crankcases. They've all been vapor blasted, as I think you saw in the last part. Little note on the vapor blasting without going down a massive rabbit hole. I haven't gone crazy with the vapor blasting. You see some engines that have just been like vapor blasted to within an inch of their life, and they almost don't look real. They're too shiny, and I'm kind of keen to keep, I want this to look factory but with a little bit of bling, as in the Cerakoted covers. To that end, I've replated all the original bolts. I wanted to try and keep some originality. It's very easy to just go and buy a load of stainless steel blingy bolts. You're on the verge of making them look a bit naff if you're not careful. So kind of trying to keep it as kind of original, new looking, with a little bit of sort of a modern twist with a burnt bronze Cerakote on the covers and stuff. So what I'm doing now is because they've all been vapor blasted, and they've been cleaned to within an inch of their life, but I like to just go around. It's worth spending half an hour before you build something, just running a tap through all the threads and then having a good old airline of everything, just so you know when it goes together, it's you know what I'm saying. There's not going to be any issues. So that's that. I'm going to finish off cleaning all these threads out, give it one more clean, then we're ready to start assembling. Everything's pretty much ready to go. This is the fun bit. This is the last 5% of the build. Everything's clean, everything's laid out, all the bolts are replated. It's literally just a case of bolting it together now. So yeah, this is a 2-3 hour process, possibly, maybe a little bit more if you take your time with it. But this is, we're on the final hurdle now. There's been some other stuff going on too. The carburetors are almost done, or not almost done, but they're having the same treatment as the engine, basically. Brackets zinc plated. I'll flash you up a picture. Brackets all zinc plated, bodies all vapor blasted, all new screws. It needs to look new, basically. There's some new inlet manifold rubbers for it the guys sent me. Yeah, unfortunately, I think I said in episode 1 I'd quite like to run it once it's together, but the ignition system is going to cause me issues because it's not. I thought it was conventional points and it isn't, so we're not going to be able to run it. And also it needs a starter motor. The starter motor is locked up solid, and that's a whole nother story, but we're probably not going to have a starter motor in time. But we can still build it. Right, so clean the threads, stop talking, do some work, and I'll bring you in when it's, various stages as it goes together. Happy days. Okie dokie, so another clean, as I do. So squeaky clean now. Blown everything. What am I trying to say? Been around all the threads, ran a tap through them all, airlined them all out, brake cleaner, airlined them all out, cleaned all the oil galleries again, just got the little circlippy location circlips in for the gearbox, pins for the crankshaft. There's not really a lot to see. You're just going to lay the gearbox in, lay the crankshaft in. There's not a lot going on with some engines. There's quite a lot of stuff that's got to be in place for it to go together. There's a crank seal this end. Yeah, not a lot to say really. There's a couple of dowels. There's an O-ring for here. Lay the crankshaft in, like I say, with a new cam chain on it. Lay the gearbox in. Some 3-bond around it. Plop it together. Torque it up. Spin it over. Put the pistons on. I'll do you some shots as we go, but there's nothing massively complicated going on here. I'll show you in a minute when it's all laid in there, ready to go. Okie dokie. Right, so everything's laid out in there. Nothing to say particularly. There's some half-moon circlips to locate bearings. There's some little pins on the bearings. They've got to be in the right place. Crank seal. There's pins on the bearings, on the main bearings, that have got to locate. It's almost like picking a lock or something. You've got to lay the crank in and then turn them till that's a bit of a fiddle. Now I realise I'm skating over this quite a lot and not talking about this drive. There's some setting up to do of the mesh between, or the interference between these two gears, which we don't need to worry about. Basically there's some shims on the back side of these two, so these can move in and out independently depending on how thick the shim is. And you would, if you were setting it up, you measure the backlash in the gear. I don't know whether that's coming out on camera, if you can hear that. Obviously it's not all bolted together yet, but so there's some backlash between the gears, and then the way that the gears, you can imagine this one goes in and out and this one goes in and out, you can vary the contact point if you like, and you would do that with some Prussian glue on the gears and bolt it together and then rotate it and see where they come together. There's a whole thing in the manual about that. I've done a couple, but it's 20 years ago. Yeah, so I've realised some of you might have come here to learn about this, and I'm not really covering that, so I do apologise. So we're ready to go together. I have one last wipe down of the gasket faces. There's an O-ring to go in here, a couple of dowels. So there's one in this case and there's one already in the top case. O-ring for here. Put it together, bolts in, torque it up. We flip it over and then we can put the pistons on and barrels down and that sort of thing. Cool. Right, okay guys, so we're going great guns. Crankcases are all bolted together. What else is there to say? Crankcases are all bolted together. Just putting the pistons on. Yeah, I've got a top tip here. That's what I wanted to say. So, the top tip is, if ever you've built an engine, you know what a nightmare sometimes putting the wrist pin through the piston can be, as it can be really tight in the piston, and you have this big fight trying to hold the piston while you push the pin in, etc. So put your pistons in the oven for, which side's got the circlip, a couple of minutes, just so they're almost too hot to handle. Look how loose the wrist pin is in there. Now they're super tight when the pistons are cold. That way you can just not have to fight. If that makes sense. Ow, that piston's really hot. Is this going to be one of those outtake moments where it's so fucking hot I can't touch it? Right, you get the idea. Just pushes in easy rather than trying to force it in. And you really shouldn't be trying to force it in. Right, okay. Circlip on there, the other piston, base gasket. Put the barrels on. I might show you the piston ring compressor maybe. Some O-rings and bits and pieces to go. Because the oil passes up, you probably know this already, but the way the cylinder head and the camshafts get their oil, it comes up the inside of these two outside studs. Oh, and there's a couple of studs to go in that have been cleaned up, and I don't know whether you remember when it came apart, the studs came out instead of the nut coming off, but the studs have been, I've unseized the nut, got some new nuts for it, and yeah, the studs need to go back in there. Onwards. Okie dokie, good progress. Head's all on, all tucked down, cams are in. Just got my valve timing where it needs to be. So find a little torquey of these. What we got next? Put the cam chain tensioner on, and then the first bit of bling, we can put this cam cover on with all its freshly plated bolts, and it can start to get a sense of what it's actually gonna look like with its coloured Cerakote parts on. What is there to say? Nothing really. Put the cam chain tensioner in now. When you do, teaching you to suck eggs, I know, but obviously I've got my valve timing marks all right. I've got my TDC on the crank, and then yeah, once you've done your valve timing, rotate the engine, you know, multiple times. Obviously you want it all to be free and fine, and then realign your marks and recheck, but you know that already, don't you? Why am I even bothering to tell you that? Right, do my cam chain tensioner, which is a little bit of a ball ache because the gasket is, show you the tensioner. So the tensioner has had a strip and a rebuild and a vapor blast and stuff. I can't get the blooming gasket for it. So I've bought somewhere, don't go away, I bought some, because I thought I had some but I'd run out, so I bought some gasket paper. I'm just going to have to do a milliard and make a gasket. I think we'll call it that. I've got to do a milliard on this. I've got to make a gasket, which is no biggie. It's just, yeah, put this on, new gasket. I've got some new little half moon little rubbery jobbies for here. I'll show you that going on, but yeah, a little bit of 3-bond, little new rubber ends, new gasket, cam cover. Then what's left after that? The generator on this side is a little bit suspect. I put a meter on it. The wires are, obviously it's all really old, isn't it? The wires are really crunchy, and it looks, you probably saw it when it came off, possibly. I'll show you it. Let me just hold that thought, I'll go and get it. So the wires are like, you can hear that on my mic? Like crispy wires, and it all looks all burnt and horrible, which could just be, you know, it's been in black horrible oil, hasn't it, forever. But I did put a meter on it, and at one point I thought one of them was going to ground, so I need to have, I'm going to give it a clean and have another test. And oh, it's just horrible. I think I might, if I can, I'll cut this braid off and put some new braid on it and try and make it a little bit nicer. See how we go anyway. I don't really want to add more time to this job. I'm literally, I've got to be 100 hours in at this point. I know that sounds ridiculous. You've watched like 2 20-minute episodes, but it's just a time suck when you start OCDing over every little tiny bolt and screw, and I do it to myself. There's no need to be this crazy, and there's no possible way I can charge for all this time, but I can't not do it this way, if that makes sense. I've got to do it this way or I can't do it, but it just takes so bloody long to do everything. Anyway, I'm waffling on. I'll bring you in when this cam cover's on and you can have a look. It's gonna look sexy. Cool. Ready for the first bit of bling. Oh, look at that. Holy fuck. Readily new plated bolts. All the hard work and all the cleaning and all the plating and all the fucking about all sort of comes together all of a sudden. It is very rewarding, but fuck me, it's a lot of work. It is when you do it all yourself. I mean, a lot of people that are blowing smoke up my own arse, and I'm not doing it intentionally, but you know, if I was farming out the vapor blasting and farming out the Cerakoting and just doing the taking apart and putting back together, it wouldn't be so much of a ball ache. and farming out the plating, you know, all the, but it's all that stuff. The logistics of just getting it all done. Hold your horses. That one is a shorter one. I think. Yes. And that one is a shorter one. Is that a short one or a long one? Yeah, that's a short one. Short, 4 short ones. No, 2, 8 shorter ones. So I've got a long one in the wrong place somewhere. There. That's better. I've got 4 more because I've got a little cover for there as well, which I've vapor blasted. Well, even if I do say so myself, I think that looks epic. Fair play. So what next? Generator and clutch, and that is about it, and then it's done. I've got a new clutch for it, an EBC clutch, which I think you saw in episode 1. Soak those plates in oil because I forgot to do it. I meant to put them in oil earlier on and I haven't, so I'll soak those now, go and have a brew, come back, put the clutch on it. Yeah, got the carburetors to finish off. They're having the carb tops in burnt bronze, same colour, just tie it together slightly without getting too over the top. Carbs, I think you saw them in one of the other episodes, maybe there. Yeah, they're all, I'll flash a picture on the screen, they're all laid out there ready to go together. All the brackets are all zinc plated and everything's vapor blasted, all new bits for them. Coolio. Right, we're going great guns. Got a little bit of bling to go on, some chromy bits. What else we got? We got the carburetors to finish, and we're going to put those on. I'm going to put some oil in the final drive, some gearbox oil in the final drive bit. Not the for those of you that don't know, they have 2 separate oils in these engines. They have in that bevel box on the side, for the shaft drive, they have that wants some EP gear oil in it. I'll do that, get that level right for the guy, and then just leave him to put engine oil in it. It's got a new filter, and you know the sump plug's tight and stuff. It's just going to want oil in before he tries to run it. Crikey, we're close now. I'll get these carbs done, I'll mount the carbs, and then I'll give you a bit of a walk around and show you it all done. Crikey, never thought we'd actually get to this point. Little bit of bling time. Even got the proper screws with the GIS head, look. Sorry, I'm just going to get my head in the shot here. Well, there it is, guys. It's completely finished. Actually, that's not true. There's a little bracket underneath the carburetors here. This little bracket, which has been, is that coming out? Yeah, which has been zinc plated, and I haven't got any 6mm GIS screws. They're coming today, so I've got to pull the carbs back off and screw that bracket on. Apart from that, it's completely done. Super happy with the way it's turned out. It's a real shame we can't actually run it because it hasn't got points. If it had points, in fact, I've got a little plastic box with some coils in and a little battery and stuff for running these things that I made years ago. We could have worked the ignition out and put some fuel to the carbs and just fired it up. Although actually it needs a starter motor, so that would have. But if we were in a position to start it, I would have done something with a starter motor. The starter's C solid. The guy's gonna figure out a new starter motor. It's a shame. I would have liked to run it and just. Anybody that's built an engine will know the feeling that you agonise over every little detail, and you just I'm confident everything's fine, but you know what I mean. I'd like to see it running and not leak oil and sound great, and you know what I mean. Can't do that, so that's down to the guy, unfortunately. Maybe we'll get the guy to do a little video of it running or something, and we can have an updated video. Yeah, that's it then. So kind of a short little series of videos, not as in depth as the GS6R engine builder did. If you want to get more into the weeds in terms of measuring components and cylinder wall finishes and all that sort of stuff, if you haven't watched it already, go back and find the GS6R engine build series and watch that, because I get way more into the weeds with the detail. This one was really just a little bit of it was an interesting engine. I thought I'd just do a little bit of an overview of it being built. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll try and make more content, but I'm super busy. I'm literally booked up solid for the next 3 months, so it's difficult to find the time to get the camera out and film stuff. Maybe we'll do something when I'm out in the van doing a job. I'll just get Benji to come along and talk shit to me. Maybe that's something we could do. That way I haven't got to faff around with a camera. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. See you on the other side.